Okay, it's working now. Okay, so I only have a couple of minutes and I wanted to show you some stuff that will help you immensely in making sense of your astrology. Okay, so one of the things, and I'm going to move my camera on, so bear with me. Okay. All right. So one of the things that we know is when we look at a chart, what we're essentially looking at is a 360-degree wheel, right? So we're going to draw our little pizza pie in here. This is how old school astrologers do it before computers. You did this stuff by hand, right? So at the very top of the chart, this is what's called the MC, or the medium coeli. And this is what's called a nadir, or the IC, the imium coeli. And I realize that's backwards. I apologize. What are you going to do, right? Now, here is the most sensitive part of the chart. It's called the ascendant. And here is the descendant. So if you've been reading up on astrology for any length of time, this should all be pretty familiar to you, right? So ascendant, descendant, midheaven, the nadir, and all the little houses in between. Now, when we look at these charts, we also know that we're moving in a, let me see this, clock moves 12, 11, no, Jesus. I forgot how an old-fashioned clock looks. 12, 1, 2. Oh, dear God, help me. So this is, all right, let me do it my way. Forget the clock, right? I've been looking at digital clocks so long, I forget what a normal clock looks like. So at the very top of the chart, the medium coeli, the midheaven, this is what's considered 12 noon, okay? And this is what's considered midnight. Over here is dawn. And typically that's about 5 to 6 a.m. And okay, over here is usually around 5 to 6 p.m., give or take. But more notably, it's considered dusk. So in this clock, it's a 360-degree wheel, okay, divided by 12 houses, all right, which gives us 30 degrees in each house. Okay, so each one of these is 30 degrees. And each of these sections represents a specific area of life, or a more focused lens on something specific in life, okay? So, and all of these added together, it comes up to 360. Now, with all of this, we're not going to get into the house right now. We're just going to talk about the signs, right? So we know there is Aries and Taurus and Gemini and Cancer. These are your cardinal signs. Oops, can you see that? There we go. And then, of course, sorry, these are not your cardinal signs. I'm getting ahead of myself. And then there's Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Cap, Aquarius, and Pisces. So this are the 12 signs of the zodiac. Okay. So when we look at this, we're familiar with, well, Aries is this, and Taurus is that, and Gemini is this. But one of the things that's often overlooked is that each one of these signs actually represents a mathematical notation. Okay. So all of this is really math. I mean, we're doing math calculations to come up with these positions in the sky. Okay. And we're just drawing it out like this so it makes more sense and it's faster because we like pictures. Okay. So Aries, for example, represents the beginning of the 360-degree wheel. So Aries is always 0 degrees. The next sign is Taurus, and Taurus begins where Aries ends, and that is at 30 degrees. The next sign is Gemini, all right, and we would add 30 degrees to that, so that would make this, the beginning of Gemini would be 60 degrees. Cancer, add 30 degrees to that, that's 90 degrees. Cancer, Leo, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, which is here, be 120 degrees. So each of these signs should go to, sorry, this looks a little confusing, kind of doing it off the cuff as we go along. Each of these signs goes to the house that it rules. Okay, so Aries at 0 degrees represents the first house. Taurus, starting at 30 degrees, going to 60 degrees, is the second house. That's Taurus's house. Gemini, starting at 60 degrees and going to 90 degrees, is the third house. Cancer, starting at 90 and going to 120, is the fourth house, and so on and so forth. So each of these signs actually represents a numerical notation when you're calculating a chart, because it's easier to look at things like this, or let's do Libra, right? It's easier to look at 23 degrees at a symbol, 23 degrees and 47 minutes, rather than 200, something like this. And then maybe we've got Taurus at 9, which would be 39 degrees. And then maybe we've got something in Sagittarius, 0, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240, sorry. So maybe something at 10 degrees Sagittarius, which would become 250. So if we were just looking at the numerical notations, this is all we would see, right? All of these numbers. That would make us batty. So when we use stuff like this, which is a number and a symbol, okay, or this, sorry, there we go, or even this, right? So when we use numbers and symbols, it's easier to identify these things very, very quickly. So you're looking at this, you're going, well, what on earth does any of that mean? Well, it means a lot of things. So the first thing is when we're looking at astrology, as you get into more advanced astrology later, one of the things you're going to understand is that, what we're really looking at is a where people resonate, right? So there are certain things that are specific and typical expressions or presentations that we see at this particular position or this harmonic, right? This level of experience. And all of these things, these signs represents types and levels of experience. So we know that something that resonates in the 0 to 30 degree range, which would be 0 to 30 degrees Aries, is going to have particular and peculiar affinities that are specific to that particular band or wavelength, right? As opposed to something that is resonating to 150 to 180 degrees, right? Which would be 0 to 30 degrees Virgo. So we know that something resonating in that bandwidth of 150 to 180 degrees in terms of our calculations, it's going to have a certain resonation or bandwidth when it gets there, and we can expect to see certain things. So when you look at signs, try not to get too hung up on, I really have to remember to turn this phone off. Try not to get too hung up on the sign as the thing, because it gets much more complicated and deep than that. So essentially, when we use the signs, the little symbols for Aries, Taurus, Gemini, etc., ad nauseum, what we're really doing is we're using a symbol as a notation, like a little piece of shorthand. So we have an easier way of identifying where something is in our calculations, because otherwise it's just a long string of numbers. And remember, on top of those mathematical notations, what is it, 203 degrees and 47 minutes, compared to the other planet that's at 250 degrees, 10 minutes, it can get confusing. So along with that, the other math notations that we're using are the aspects, 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, 120 degrees, 180 degrees, et cetera, ad 45 degrees, et cetera, ad nauseum. That's a lot of numbers to keep track of. So these symbols and these signs that we use not only represent parts of the constellation, but they're also a way for us to use mathematical notation when we set up a chart. So, hold this up for you. Remember, your ascendant is here, and this always represents sunrise or dawn. Okay. The medium coeli, or the MC, is the midhaven, and that represents noon. And when we set up a chart, it's always running counterclockwise. I think it's counterclockwise. Um, and this is how we determine what positions these have to be in. So planets sitting between 0 and 30 degrees Aries, or simply 0 and 30 degrees, are going to fall right here where we find this particular mathematical notation. Something sitting between 120 and 100 and, is it Leo? Yeah, 120 and 150 degrees is going to fall wherever this mathematical notation shows up. And this is how we position it. And this is how we determine where, how this wheel is turned and which house it's falling in. So I just thought that was an interesting bit of information I would share with you about astrology, that often gets lost in the shuffle of the more glamorous information. So if you want to, oh, sorry, back's killing me. If you want to do astrology justice, and you want to be a credible astrologer, not yet another millionth person who's picked up an astrology about 2 weeks ago and is suddenly an instant expert, or God, the ones who are still learning from their quote unquote teachers that are out here trying to teach other people. Good Lord. Anyway, so if you want to be a credible astrologer and you want to do astrology justice, it is important that you get the basics like this down and better, deeper understandings, because these are the things, these boring, tedious little details are the very things that are going to lead to your proficiency and your ability to do really solid work later. Otherwise, you're just going to be another parrot, spouting off a bunch of stuff you memorized, right? And we got plenty of those out there. All right. So that is it, boys and girls. I wanted to make this short and sweet because this is a new track for me. I'm not used to doing short and sweet like this. So, and I really actually don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to leave it like that. If you are interested in actually learning astrology the right way, or the wrong way, but my way, if you want to deepen your astrological understanding, you're interested in lessons, I will be putting up astrological video lessons on my Patreon page for subscribers, and I will have them available for purchase. So that will be available in the future. Do send me your email, let me know so I can put you on my list, and we will put in little shorts like this periodically as we go through the day. All right. Have a good one. Bye. Almost forgot, because I'm so good at forgetting these things. If you're trying to reach me, you can reach me by email at primalgirlwellness.com, or sorry, at gmail.com. primalgirlwellness@gmail.com. Sorry about that. And also, if you're trying to reach me for readings, please send me an email ahead of time so I can explain to you what you'll need to do on your end so that you can get the most out of your reading. I do have a phone line set up so we can do the reading and the payment all by phone in one simple thing. And the rates are very cheap. I think it's like $1.50. I mean, it works out to like $60 for half hour or 45 minutes. It's very cheap, which is also why I want you to get the most out of your time with me when you have it. So, got something on my arm. That's it for now. This is a new venture for me. So let me know, send me feedback, and let me know what you're interested in, how you liked it, and what we can add to it in the future. All right? Bye.